She was gonna get in so much trouble for this, was the first thought that ran through Yella's head as the large hauler they had mistakenly become trapped on pulled away from the Banaru station. Staring up at the towering stacks of cargo containers surrounding the three children, she wondered how could things gone so wrong. All she had to do was get her two siblings safely aboard their connecting shuttle, and instead, here they were rocketing to some strange location aboard a strange ship. The next thought Ella had was, this is just like that time when Annabelle Reynard accidentally boarded Lord Falton's ship when he was posing as the Pirate King, and two of them dueled until they realized that both were secretly attempting to... Come on! Huh? Yelled Yella, snapping out of her House of the Ashen Grey daydream. It seemed that no matter what was going on, she could always lose herself in one of her books, even when she wasn't actually reading it. We need to stop this ship, Selin said, as she grabbed her sister's sleeve and pulled her towards the exit on the far side of the cargo hold. You're right, said Yella, freeing her arm and taking the lead. If we can get the captain to take us back to the Banaru right away, we can try to get on the 1945 flight to Europa. Maybe they will even let us calm Baba and tell her what happened. She'll be worried when our shuttle arrives and we're not on it. Yella felt better. They had a plan now. If she just focused on that, there was less room in her head for doubt and worry. Though Baba would probably scold them missing their first flight, she found out about their adventure and how well Yella handled the situation. She was hoping their grandmother was going to give them one of those little smiles she gave whenever they were particularly brave and clever. As Baba said, a good adventure is always worth getting in a little bit of trouble for. Do we have to leave so soon? I've never been on a hauling ship before, Daymar asked, as he walked alongside his sisters. Wait! Selin and Yella froze in their tracks as Daymar dropped to his knees and ripped open his rucksack. What? What is it? Did we lose Baba's gift? Yella asked. No, I have it right here, said Selin, showing her sister. Yella was relieved to see the precious gift was still tucked away safely in Selin's bag. After working so hard to get a replacement for the first gift they lost, she didn't even want to think about the chance of losing this one. Even the dim lighting of the cargo hold did little to hide how beautiful its craftsmanship was. It had clearly been well used over the years, but carefully cared for. Exactly the sort of thing Baba loved. Part of Yellen was still amazed that the stall owner had agreed to gift the gift to them in exchange for only partially opening the Banu lockbox. Yella supposed that after years of trying to open the thing, even making a little bit of progress might have seemed worth the trade. The stall owner was probably sitting with the lockbox right now trying to open it the rest of the way. But Yella had a sneaking suspicion that when she returned to the station Banaru on their way back to Mars, the stall owner and the box would very much be in the same state they were in when they all left. There it is, said Daymar, as he pulled out his bright yellow cap and secured it to his head. Now I look like a real hauler. Maybe the captain will even let me fly the ship. Oh, maybe I can even fly us all the way to Babu's house. Selim was consistently amazed by her brother's ability to find the bright side of any situation. If she was a storm cloud, as her father would like to say, Daymar was the ray of sunshine that poked through it. Maybe, said Selin with a half smile. But first we have to hurry up and go talk to them. Then let's go. With that, Daymar let loose an even bigger grin and sped up, leading the way through the cargo stacks. It's this way, Daymar. Without losing a step, Daymar stopped, turned, and followed his sisters in the correct direction. It turned out that the hauling vessel not only had one of the biggest rooms they had ever seen on a ship, it also had one of the messiest. After heading out of the cavernous cargo hold, through the deafening engine room, and past whatever it is you call those rooms that are almost completely full of pipes and valves, they had come to the crew quarters. Even though there were 2 beds, it was clear that only one was in use, since the other side was completely covered in an assortment of items, the bulk of which could easily be described as junk. The small kitchenette on the side of the room housed a museum's worth of dirty dishes. The work desk was covered with dozens of small vials. The floor itself only had the narrowest of navigatable paths through the flotsam that accumulated there. "Whoa, look at this stuff," exclaimed Selin, impressed. Her own personal choice of living conditions hovered slightly around disaster area, but even her sleep hab back on Mars paled in comparison to the sheer magnitude of chaos that filled the small crew area. "It's disgusting," said Yella. "It smells like Dad's feet," said Damar, crinkling his nose. "You still sure you want to be a hauler?" asked Yella. "Yes," said Damar, but not as confidently as previously. "Look, it's not trash, it's a collection," said Sella, stooping to pick up a small rock off the ground. "Dad showed me one of these before. It's a flint arrowhead." She cut around the mess to hold a large loose piece of fabric from the floor. "And this, I learned about this flag from school. It's the Port Renatus first election, when they formed the Mars Union." Selen's eyes narrowed, and she proactively pulled the flag close to her. "You shouldn't put the Martian flag on the floor, even if it's an old one." Damar was looking unhappily at the bottom of his left shoe, where there were clear signs of him having stepped in something sticky and quite unpleasant. "Are you sure it's a collection and not just trash?" "It's both." Yella was surveying the room with new appreciation. She continued, "I couldn't see it under the mess, but whoever lives here definitely loves history." She turned her head sideways to look at the books that lined the packed shelf along the wall. "Look at all these books. There's one about the Mars tragedy. That's one about ancient Rome. There's Nick Crowshaw's biography. There's even 3 books about the Stanley Mutiny." "What's the Stanley Mutiny?" Damar and Selin both asked. "When the UNE was formed, a bunch of starmen didn't like it, so they captured their captain and took over the warship. It's what started the Unification Wars," said Yella. "But we're getting distracted. Right now, we still need to figure out a way to go get to Baba's. Come on." Carefully, stepping around empty meal bar wrappers, crumpled cans of Boost, dirty clothing, and surprisingly ill-treated collection of artifacts, the trio arrived at the bridge bulkhead. Yella took a deep breath to calm herself and immediately regretted doing that because of the smell, and then pressed the button to open the hatch. When the door slid back, the 3 siblings were hit with a wave of gutter rock music. Damar quickly slapped his hands over his ears to try to drown out the noise, but he could still feel the deep bass causing his heart to beat faster and faster. "Excuse me," Yella said to announce their arrival, but the heavy guitar riffs swallowed up her voice. "Hey!" Sella tried to shout over the din, to little effect. Marching towards the past and future through the wave of artifacts, they found 2 utility panels that populated the back of the room, past the terminals, and finally she approached the pilot's chair at the nose of the ship, where the narrow band of thick-paneled cockpit glass provided a cramped view of the nearby jump point beacons. When Selin was close enough to see past the bulky rust padding that lined the back of the seat, she stopped in her tracks, confused. Yella and Damar caught up with her and saw for themselves what had been perplexing their younger sister. The pilot seat was empty. No one was flying the ship. Suddenly, the music switched off, and silence that followed was almost deafening. "All right, here's what's going to happen," said a deep, melodic voice. "You're going to slowly raise your arms and turn around. Try anything else, and you'll regret it." Doing as they were asked, the 3 turned to see a very tall woman standing in the alcove next to the door, her head almost touching the ceiling. They must have walked right past her when they came in. However, more concerning at the moment was the massive rifle she was aiming at the floor by their feet. "Is that a real gun?" asked Helen. "You don't want to find out," said the woman. "Now, who the heck are you?" "I'm Damar. I'm going to be a hauler." "Fantastic, kid. You definitely have the hat for it. But I meant, what are you doing on my ship? You," she said, gesturing the rifle vaguely at Yella. "Talk." Yella nervously stepped forward. "We accidentally got on your ship at the Banaru. We didn't mean to, but before we could leave, the door closed and we were stuck. If you could take us back, we could—" "Anyone know you're here?" "No, we're traveling by ourselves, but our grandmother will be worried then." "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to lock you three in the hold, and you're going to sit there not touching anything until I can get someone to pick you up." "You're going to Kamar Baba?" asked Damar. The woman gave a smile. "Something like that. First things first. Take off your bags and put them on the ground." Damar and Yella did as they were told, but Selen held firmly onto her pack. "No." "What do you mean, no?" demanded the woman. "You can't have Baba's gift," said Selen, clutching the bag tighter to her chest. Yella reached out her hand for her sister to give the bag to her. "Let's give it to her, Selen. We don't want to make her angry." The tall woman took a step forward, using her full height to tower over the kids. "Your sister's right. I don't think you're grasping the full ramifications of the situation here. You three picked about the worst ship possible to stow away on. See, this isn't just any ship. I'm an infamous smuggler. I mean, you ask anyone who knows about such things if Rose Briar is to be trifled with, and they'll tell you, no uncertain terms, that I am no one to cross lightly. Either that, or they'll say that they never heard of me. Both answers just how good I am of a smuggler. Am I clear?" "You're like a pirate?" asked Damar, his eyes so wide they looked like they were about to fall out of his head. "Close enough," said Rose. "Whoa, that's even better than a hauler," responded Damar. "Not for you. Now, this is the last time I'm going to say it. Hand the bag over, or else." "Or else what?" Selen said. "Or else this." With lightning speed, Rose reached down and yanked the bag out of Selen's grip. "Didn't see that coming, did you, kid?" "Hey, that's stealing," cried Selen. "She knows, Selen. She's a pirate," explained Damar. A little bit later, Yella, Damar, and Selen stood once again inside the cargo hold, except this time a thick power cord had been wrapped around them, binding the trio to face in sort of an awkward prisoner hug. It had taken forever to shuffle from the bridge to the rear of the ship bound in this configuration, but Rose patiently waited and followed them with that menacing rifle of hers at the ready just in case. "There. Now you three just cool your heels in here and behave yourselves. We should be in Croshaw soon enough." "You're taking us out of Seoul?" asked Yella, rotating her siblings around so she could look at the smuggler. "That's usually what Croshaw means." Yella felt her mouth go dry. She had always wanted to go through a jump point. She just hadn't expected to do it today, much less as a prisoner. This really is turning into something straight out of a House of Ash and Grey novel. Rose steadied the children for a second. "Let me guess, you've never jumped before." The sibling silence was all the answer she needed. Rose took a few strides to the nearby storage locker, nestled in the wall, keyed open the coated catch. From inside the cache, she found a small chamber. She pulled out a well-worn EVA suit and tossed the helmet with a clatter next to them. "Here, if you get sick, use this old helmet as a bucket." Rose turned and leave. "Wait, what if we have to use the bathroom?" asked Damar, his feet already dancing back and forth a bit. "The suit has a recycler in it. Might still be working. You can use that." "And if we get hangry, are we supposed to eat the suit too?" said Selen. Rose rolled her eyes. "There's a ration kit in the locker too. I would recommend waiting till after the jump to eat, or it's all going to wind up in the helmet." Rose stepped into the bulkhead, separating the cargo hold from the rest of the ship. "Wait, what about untying us?" asked Yella. "No." And with that, the smuggler sealed the cargo hold behind her. Not wasting a second, Sella sucked in her breath and slipped easily from her bindings. Heading to the exit, she stopped and picked up the helmet on the floor. Daymar, bang on the door and beg for her to come back. When she comes in, we can hit her on the head. Okay, said Daymar, lifting the loose cord and following after. We're mutinying, answered Daymar. He began to pound his fist on the sealed hatch. Help, help, there's a monster. Selin grabbed the crate from the bottom of the storage locker and dragged it next to the door. Once we take over the ship, we can fly to Europa ourselves. Climbing on top of the crate, she raised the helmet over her head, ready to attack whoever came through. Have you gone crazy? Get down from there. We can't attack Rose. Why not? She attacked us. For one thing, she has a gun. For another, you have to listen to me. Dad put me in charge to keep you two safe. And look, where you're being in charge has gotten us, Sella muttered slowly as she shifted her grip on the helmet. We've lost 2 gifts, missed our flight, and got kidnapped. Maybe I should be the older sister from now on. Yella felt her stomach drop out from beneath her. Maybe Sella was right. Her heart beat faster and faster and faster, and the room began to swim around her. Maybe their dad shouldn't have trusted her. I don't feel so good, said Daymar, clutching his stomach. As Yella watched Selin puke into the helmet, she finally realized why she felt like her insides were being stretched and squashed at the same time. They had entered the jump point. Selin laid her head in Yella's lap as her sister gently ran her fingers over her back. Daymar sat nearby, rifling through the rations in the box that Rose had left them. The 3 were finally starting to feel normal again after their trip through inner space. Yella couldn't quite wrap her head around the idea that on the other side of that hull was an entirely new star system, and had instead chosen to focus on taking care of Selin, who had experienced the worst of the jump symptoms. It's like Dad picked us out, said Daymar, as he dumped the rest of the box of the contents on the floor. All these meal bars are mushroom ragu, and there are only 2 flavors of boost to drink, bitter melon and coffee. Blech. When he reached the bottom of the box, he pulled out a spiral-bound book that had been stored there and quickly held it out to his sisters. Here, Yella, a reading thing. What does the cover say? Asked Yella. After Daymar's mishap with the docking port lettering, she was determined to help her younger brother improve his reading skills. Daymar studied the cover for a moment, and he began his attempt. Emergency. Cows. Emergency product. Right, emergency protocol, said Yella. What does that mean? It's probably a guide on what to do if the ship catches fire or loses pressure or something. Like that vid they made us watch before the transport ship took off from Mars. Do you want to read? Putting the book down near his sister. I want to see if the storage locker has some not gross food in it. Getting up, Daymar went to the crate Selin had dragged out of the locker earlier and opened its lid. There's a bunch more pressure suits in here, said Daymar as he began to empty them out. Now we can all go to the bathroom if we need to. Yella picked up the emergency protocols manual and began paging through it. Seems like the ship was built in the shipyards near Deimos, and it was over 100 meters long? Oh, you know that room with all the pipes we walked through? Turns out that's the life support controls. Handles all the oxygen and the water and stuff. Maybe we could poison her, said Selin, as she sat on her Yella's lap. Not enough to kill her or anything, but like maybe next time she took a shower and the water would make her sick, and then we can mutiny. Even if we find a way out of this room and a way to poison the water, do you remember how filthy her room was? Who knows how long we would have to wait until she actually took a shower. I don't hear you coming up with any better plans. That's because there are no good plans. We're locked in here. And that's all there is to it. Sitting and waiting quietly is the best way for us to get out of here safe. Selin looked around and worried her finger at the small tear at the top of her shoe. But what if we don't? Only the wet spots of the cargo floor revealed that she was crying. Yella opened her mouth to promise her sister they would definitely be okay. But before she could even say the words, she realized that she wasn't so sure anymore. She didn't know where Rose was taking them or what else might happen. Yella suddenly felt helpless. Here she was, actually living an adventure that would fit perfectly into one of her books, but it felt nothing like she imagined. The characters in her stories always seemed like they were having so much fun and they were in danger. Maybe this is what Baba meant when she would tell them that it's hard to get anywhere if you're not willing to take a single step. Maybe, instead of poisoning the water, Yella began, to the surprise of Selin, we can use the emergency ventilation controls to flush the atmosphere out of the ship, knock her unconscious. She pointed to the corresponding diagrams in the manual. Yeah, that would totally work, agreed Selin, wiping her eyes. And we could use those pressure suits we have to stay awake. Yes, we just need a way to get out of here. I can't open this box, said Daymar, the two girls startled, looking back, having temporarily forgotten their brother was still there. And it won't move either, said Daymar, tugging at the handle of the crate in the storage locker. The number pad on the front of the latch glowed red, showing it was sealed. You could try the code she used to open the locker door, suggested Yella, 2380. How do you know what code she used? She opened right in front of us. It was kind of hard not to see. I don't understand your brain sometimes. Shame, said Yella, playfully shoving her sister. The code worked, exclaimed Daymar, lifting the lid. Oh, there's nothing in it, not even a bottom. What? Yella and Selin both rushed over to see what was going on. There was a little light in the locker, but there was no denying the inside of the crate was much darker than it should have been. Yella reached a hand in as far as she could and met no resistance. There's no bottom. That's what I said, reminded Daymar. I wonder what's down there. It's too dark to see anything, said Yella. I have an idea, said Daymar before he left the locker and came back with one of the pressure chutes. He fumbled for a moment, and then all three siblings were suddenly blinded by the suit's flashlight turning on. Not wasting a moment, Daymar dropped the suit into the box. It fell for a few meters before coming to a stop in what appeared to be a crawl space located below the floor. It's a secret tunnel. Where does it go? Let's find out, said Daymar. He pulled himself over the edge of the box, hooked his feet into a small indentation there. The box had a ladder built in. Daymar climbed down the subfloor and crawled out of sight. There's a whole room down here. Not wanting to be left out, Selin and Yella quickly followed around. Automatic lights kicked on when they reached the end of the tunnel, revealing a small alcove lined with shelves. We found the pirate's treasure, said Daymar, looking through various items on the shelves with wonder. This must be where she hides all the stuff she snuggles, said Yella. She delicately peeked through all of the shelving, finding a flat engraved stone from the shelf, and lightly ran her fingertips over the markings. I saw one of these during old school field trips to the Moscow History Museum. This is a cuneiform tablet. It's thousands of years old. Look at these goggles, said Selin, sliding the dark, oversized, bug-eyed optics onto her head. They're like the ones the settlers used in the old frontier shows Dad likes to watch. This stuff is really valuable, realized Yella. I think Rose must specialize in smuggling rare historical artifacts. That explains all the books and stuff in her room. Hey, cute little fella, said Daymar, tapping on the transparent glass box. What's your name? Inside, a hairy slug-like creature crawled along the side, its underside undulating in a display of multicolored ripples where it glided across the surface. Daymar slid the lid off the box. Careful, don't touch it, warned Yella. Don't worry, it's friendly, assured Daymar, as he carefully put his hand into the box. It's a Sniblet. They're from Aramis. I learned all about them in the Kid Cadets. So, What's it doing in here? That's easy. Sniblets are treasures too, because people in Vega tried to wipe them out. There's not very many of them left. I thought you said it was friendly. Friendly to people. Sniblets eat metal, though. Look. Damar placed the sausage-esque furry creature on top of a bronze sculpture of two people kissing. As the creature crawled along, the metal practically vanished, and within seconds there was nothing left of the torso of the young lovers. Yella checked the tag on the sculpture. He just ate a rodent. Whatever that is. I guess he was hungry, said Damar. Maybe that could be his name. Damar lifted the Sniblet up to his face. How about you? Do you like the name Rodin? How much metal do you think Rodin can eat? They can eat a lot. Why? These bitter melon drinks are pretty good, said Yella, taking another sip. Sort of like lemon apple flavor. You sure you don't want to try any? Damar shook his head no, focused on guiding Rodin back to the path they had drawn. The little Sniblet had already eaten his way through a good chunk of the cargo hold's exit hatch. Selin fidgeted inside the baggy pressure suit she was wearing. All three siblings had put on their suits so they'd be ready to flush the ship's atmosphere the minute the little creature had finished munching their escape route. I shouldn't have let you drink that coffee boost, said Yella to her sister. Look how jumpy you are. How much longer is it going to take? Shouldn't be much longer. Rodin's making great progress, said Yella. No, he's not, said Damar. The sisters came to look. Sure enough, the noticeably fatter Sniblet was no longer moving. I think he might be full, Damar gently picked up and prodded Rodin, but it had no effect. I guess we'll have to wait for him to wake back up, said Yella. No, I can fit through, said Selin. Taking off the large pressure chute, she put one foot through the partial hole in the door, then the next foot. She pushed herself up to her hips, then sucking in her breath, twisted and wiggled until she managed to only just barely squeeze all the way through. There was no way that Yella or Damar was going to be able to get through the same way their younger sister did. Selin tried the control panel, but the door stayed firmly in place. It's locked on this side too. Says I don't have permission. That means the only way to open it is the security controls on the bridge. Give me my suit and I'll help you out. What, let you go alone? You two are too big and we can't risk waiting for Rodin to wake up. Who knows what might happen or how long Sniblets nap for. Just tell me what I have to do and I can flush the air. Yella's instinct was to argue to protect her sister. But after everything they'd been through today... Here, Yella handed her sister the crumpled pressure suit and helmet through the small opening. Using the diagrams in the manual, proceeded to explain to Selin what would be needed in order to trigger the emergency ventilation controls and open the cargo bay hatch. Once their younger sister was out of sight, Yella and Damar put on their helmets and waited. It was probably only a minute or two, but standing there, hearing her own heartbeat inside the helmet, Yella had a much deeper appreciation for when her science teacher had tried to explain to him how time was a relative concept. Do you think Rose found Selin? Asked Damar, gently stroking his gloved finger along Rodin's back as a way to calm himself. As if in reply, there was a loud clunk, followed by the rushing sound of wind. The atmosphere was being sucked out of the cargo hold. Rodin, look, said Damar. Selin did it. Rodin! Yella had been so worried about Selin that she almost forgot about the little Sniblet. Damar, Rodin won't be able to breathe, said Yella. We have to get him inside a suit. If she had stopped to think, there was no way she would have done it. But right then, as if all the air drained of the room instantly, it seemed like the obvious choice. Yella sucked in a deep breath and took off her helmet. The wind rushed past her face so hard that she could barely keep her eyes open, and then a split second later the wind stopped. The atmosphere was all gone. Leaning forward so that Damar would be able to reach her suit openings, Yella hoped that he would understand. Her lungs were burning as Damar reached forward and slipped Rodin into her pressure suit.
Not wasting another moment, she snapped her helmet back into place, sucked in a deep breath. As she panted heavily, Rodin began to crawl across her faceplate. "He's awake! You did it!" It was then the cargo door slid open. "Come on," panted Yella. "Let's find Selin." As they entered the engine room, they heard the rush of wind again. Designed to put out the fires and flush toxins, the ship's emergency ventilation protocols were already pumping atmosphere back in. Crossing through life support, they arrived at the crew quarters to see Selin standing above the unconscious body of Rose, holding Baba's gift proudly above her head. "Mutiny! The ship is ours!" cried Sela triumphantly. That was part 2 of of this amazing story, A Gift for Baba. Thank you for sticking with me this far. If you haven't already, please subscribe. To my long-term subscribers, thank you for sticking around and being on this journey with me as I constantly come up with new ways to make these videos. I love making lore videos. I love batting for the fences on them. I really feel that this one is perfect for the season. It started out on a Starliner. It's got what I believe is a merchantman or some such type of ship as the hauler. Well, I'm sure we're going to learn in the third part. There's 3 parts to this series. This is the second one. Bear with me. I'll try to get the third part out quickly. Really cool story. Really good stuff. You've got jump points, bounty hunters, Crowshaw's background story, old and new relics of the time of StarCitizen and the time before it mixing together. And, even more mysterious stories. What does her father of the 3 children do for a living? What's the story with where the kids are going to go? How are they possibly going to deal with this situation of whoever this bounty hunter is intending to meet? Sorry, bounty hunter. Smuggler is intending to meet with. See, you all don't get to hear this, but there is a lot of stopping and editing on these type of videos because I'll go back an entire paragraph and realize there's like 1 or 2 little issues in it, and then I have to re-record the entire thing. So if you ever do hear a stutter or a stop, please understand it's because I'm trying to provide the best possible performance. And it is not easy. Not at all. Even when I'm just speaking it and acting it, it's not fun. But I love the final products and I love bringing these to life. These are great stories that deserve to be told. The original of this, A Gift for Baba Part 2, was released by CIG's lore team on 5/11/2021. And once again, thank you for sticking around on this journey with me, and subscribe for more StarCitizen content. And let me know what you think of these stories. If you aren't a fan of lore, or if you are, or if there's things that might make them a little more interesting to you. I'm always trying to expand my community, people who like to watch my videos, not just talking about ships and strategy of ships or stuff, that kind of things, but also lore. I'd like to get more and more involved with that as I have been for the past, I don't know, over a year now. All right. For real now. Fly safe.